Wittenberg Academy's Elementary Latin 2 course. Our book is Minimus Secundus, and we're ready for Chapter 5 on page 34. But first, of course, let's take a look at page 35 in our new vocabulary. Dies means days. Juvenes, young man. Fallerae, or metals. Proelium is a battle. Sacellum is a chapel. Signifer, a standard bearer. Signum, a military standard. It's obviously where we get the word sign. Stipendium, pay. Titulus is an inscription, a title. Some verbs: curat, he looks after. Custodit, he guards. Erat, he was. Volo, I want. Vis, you want. Infinitives: facere, to make. Invenire, to find. Sculpere is to carve, to sculpt. Mihi placet means I want. It literally means it pleases me. Tibi licet, you are allowed, it is permitted to you. Carissime, dearest. Paukos is a few. Tristis is sad. Post means after. Sub means under. And tam means so or thus. All right. So we're getting to the point now where you may find it useful as an added exercise. Before I go over these readings, you may find it useful to try to translate them yourself. And then as I go through the stories, here the kind of comic book stories, then you can correct your translations based on what you hear me do. And then, that may be a good way for you to practice and kind of test your translation skills as we go along. So if you'd like to do that, after I go through the vocabulary in this tape and after you've made your cards, you could pause the video, go through and write out your translations, and then come back and check them. As you move out of Elementary Latin 2 and move into Latin 1, that's kind of our normal procedure for translation work. Right, sad news. Flavius has been visiting the soldiers in the fortress and has heard some sad news. Carissime, cur tam tristis es. That's dearest, why are you so sad? The verb is es. Why are you so sad? Quod ducius mortuus est. Quod ducius mortuus est, because Ducius is dead. Quis Ducius est? Who is Ducius? Lucius Ducius Rufinus miles optimus erat, signifer erat. So Lucius Rufinus, we'd say in English, but Lucius Ducius Rufinus was a great soldier. He was the signifer. Quid signifer est? What's a signifer? Signifer signum in proelium portat. The verb there is portat. The noun that is running it, the subject, is signifer. The signifer carries the signum in battle, the sign in battle. Signifer quoque stipendium curat. Signifer quoque stipendium curat. The signifer, now where's the verb at the end? Cares. The signifer also cares for the stipend, the money. Signifer stipendium sub sacello custodit. Signifer stipendium sub sacello custodit. The signifer custodit, he places or guards. He's the custodian. So he guards the stipendium, the money, under the chapel, sub sacello, under the chapel. Mihi placet sculptorem optimum invenire. Mihi placet sculptorem optimum invenire. So he's mihi placet, it pleases me, or I want. invenire, to find, sculptorum optimum, an excellent sculptor. Flavius celeritur exit. Flavius celeritur exit. Flavius exits swiftly. Salve. Hello. Salve. Quid vis? Hello. What do you want? Flavius officinam intrat. Flavius officinam intrat. Flavius enters his office, his study. Signifer nomine Lucius Ducius Rufinus mortuus est. Volo te titulum splendidum facere. Volo te titulum splendidum facere. So signifer, Lucius, a man by the name of, a signifer by the name, that's what nomine means, by the name, a signifer by the name of Lucius Ducius Rufinus is dead. I want you, facere, to make a splendid title, a splendid inscription. Ite facile est mihi titulum sculptura. Facile est mihi titulum sculptura. Very well. It is easy, facile est, it is easy for me to sculpt an inscription. Flavius gives the sculptor the details to carve on the tomb, and the sculptor begins immediately. Volo sculptorum spectare. Volo sculptorum spectare. I wish to watch the sculptor. Tibi licet sculptorum spectare. Tibi licet sculptorum spectare. It is allowed for you, you are allowed to view the sculptor. Paucos post dies, Flavius et Lepidina et Rufus ad sculptorum revenient. Paucos post dies, Flavius et Lepidina et Rufus ad sculptorum revenient. So paucos post dies means after a few days. Latin can do this. We always would say, post paucos dies, after a few days. They can put that word after, in between. So after a few days, Flavius and Lepidina and Rufus go back, revenient, go back to the sculptor. Ecce signum, ecce fallere, oi, decius juvenis erat. So he says, behold the signum, behold the medals. And then the mom says, oh dear, Ducius was young. Ducius was young. All right, grasp the grammar on page 36. In the picture story, there are two new impersonal verbs, mihi placet and tibi licet. The literal translation of these verbs is, it is pleasing to me, or it is permitted for you. But people don't talk like that in English, so our translation into English needs to sound natural as well as being accurate. So it's much better to translate these verbs as I want or you are allowed. Do you remember the question words? What's the difference between cur, quis, and quid? Cur means why, quis means who, quid means what. Have another look at the picture story. Can you find the infinitives? They're in your vocabulary, so you can look that over. Remember that they all end in re, and one of them is used twice. Latin roots, obviously you can see custody, that comes from the word to guard. Voluntary, from volo, I want or I wish. Licensed comes from licet, it is allowed. Juvenile comes from juvenis, a young man. Post-mortem, after death. And mortuary, a place for dead folks. And invention, invenire, means to find something, to discover something. Very good. All right. So here you can look at this. This is very interesting on page 37. This is the actual tombstone. So there really was a man named Lucius Ducius Rufinus, now in the Yorkshire Museum. And so if you look carefully, can you see how those questions down there? So leg is short for legio. The Roman numerals tell us which legion. So can we see that there? So it says sig, si, the 1, 2, 3, 4th line. So he was the signifer for the legiones, the 9th. VIII. They actually didn't do IX for 9 in Latin. The Romans didn't. They never used subtraction like that. Maybe you learned Roman numerals that way. They only did addition. So how old was he? He was XXII, and then an X. Well, then as soon as I say that, it looks like maybe they did subtraction there. I think it means he's 22. I think the X must go for the next line. Well, at any rate, he was a real fella, and so they're making this book based on what really happened in York. So have a read over that, practice your vocabulary, and you'll be ready for the second video for Chapter 5.